Hi guys, really sorry. I know if you follow me on Instagram, I promised to have this video up by last night, but life got in the way and I completely hit a massive brain fog and forgot all about it. So here it is. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, give it a thumbs up and please subscribe, and I will be back on again soon. Bye. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm really sorry it's been so long since I messaged back. I've had a lot to deal with over the last few weeks, and as you can see, certain things have changed. I now have my nasal jejunal tube. It's not a nasal gastric tube, so this tube goes into my nose, down my esophagus, through my stomach and into my small intestine. Where a nasogastric tube will go into your stomach. And I've had it now for coming up to 6 weeks this Thursday. And for the last week and a couple of days, I have been able to try and introduce oral food again. And I have to admit, it's not been going great, to be fair. So start from the beginning. I basically phoned my GI doctor about 2 weeks or so after I had my manometry and pH, which was what my last video was about. And I asked him, had he had the results yet, because I hadn't heard anything, and when roughly would I be getting my NJ tube, because of the fact that I booked a holiday to go last year and it got amended to this year, and I needed to let my travel company know. And he wasn't in work at that particular time, so I got told he'd probably contact me in a couple of days. I got a phone call on the Wednesday, the 21st of April, and office secretary asking me to go to clinic on the 22nd of April, which was 4 weeks to the day that I'd actually had my second opinion from the GI EDS specialist in Stoke Hospital, and who recommended I have the NJ tube in the first place, along with my dietitian back in November last year. So my GI doctor was sat with my dietitian when I went to see him on the 22nd, and we basically spoke about how the tube was going to be placed through endoscopy. I asked him, could I have it on the left side? He said, we'll see how we get on. And then he asked me to get some blood tests done, just to see whether I was at risk of refeeding syndrome. And then he asked me to go and speak to my dietitian. I was at the hospital for roughly, with blood tests included, about an hour and a half. I'd asked my dietitian and my gastric doctor both, like, roughly when I'd be getting the tube fitted. And they said it would be like about 3 to 4 weeks, roughly, because they still had a bit of a backlog, and I should be able to get my daughter's birthday out of the way and things like that. However, they give me a date. If it wasn't suitable, I could change it. And I just said, okay. So I went for my blood test. I then left the hospital, and my daughter had left a little bit before me because I was waiting for bloods to be done. And just in case I was running behind, because we had a dentist appointment the same day, and we went... I caught up with her at the park, which was close to my son's school, and I was basically just pulled into the park with my wheelchair, and the next thing I know, my phone's ringing, and I'm like, okay, it's a hospital, like, what's going on? I thought it was down to book me in for my neurologist appointment, which I knew that was due soon, maybe bringing that forward. And it wasn't. It was the outpatient waiting list to book me in for my endoscopy to have my tube fitted. And they basically told me that they'd booked me in for the 29th of April. And I was like, wow, like, I've literally just left the hospital half an hour ago after being told it'll be like 3 to 4 weeks. And now you've told me that you booked me in for next week. And she was like, yeah, well, we had it down that you were written down for urgent and it had to be done as soon as possible. So therefore, we've booked you in for next week. And I was like, oh, okay. But do you know when people catch you off guard and you don't know, like, whether it's a good time or a bad time? And obviously, I wanted to just get it over with because, I'd originally been told I could eat and supplement with feed. So I was like, yeah, that's fine. I agreed to have the appointment done on the 29th, and I went for my COVID swab, which was a 45-minute drive again to another hospital, on the Tuesday, and then I had my tube fitted on the Thursday. So from having that second opinion from the GI EDS specialist in Stoke through to having my tube fitted was a maximum of 5 weeks, like literally 5 weeks. So everything happened like a massive whirlwind, and it was 4 weeks after my pH manometry was done as well. Now my pH manometry results have now come back to show that I have a small hiatal hernia on my lower esophageal sphincter, which is what's contributing to my acid reflux, the lot of air pressure that I get in my chest when my bowels and everything else have been empty completely, and also what's causing the small dysmotility that I have in my esophagus. It's not enough to need surgery. I could have it fixed if I chose to, but obviously I would have to be a more healthier way to do that. And to be quite honest with you, with my gastric doctor talking to me and explaining to me that it's not an overly massive thing to get it fixed, it's probably better to just leave it, because obviously the tube bypasses that anyway. Then I'm kind of inclined to agree with that. So, but anyway, my tube had blocked, started blocking roughly 2 weeks after I had it placed, and it blocked twice to the point where I needed to go to hospital to have it unblocked. And then I spoke to my GI doctor again a week last Friday, who told me to start reintroducing oral food. He wanted me on an antihistamine and a H2 inhibitor, 2 things that I'm already taking, and to try a medication called sodium chromacylocate, which is basically a medication, which is an anti-inflammatory medication that is typically used for people who have mast cell activation disorder, especially with food, so that it reduces the inflammation response in the esophagus and the stomach. The whole idea is so that if they can reduce the inflammation, it might actually stop the pain and the sickness that I'm getting. There's no scientific evidence or any strong evidence to suggest it'll do anything at all, but my doctor thinks it's worth a try. So I said that's fine. However, I'm still, like a week or so later, I'm still waiting for the prescription to come through my door. And then last Thursday, I had a conversation with my dietitian, again, an appointment I was not expecting. And I was on the phone for her for 45 minutes. She asked me how I was doing, because my tube had been blocking a lot. And I explained to her that my GI doctor had initially asked me to try a medication, and to start introducing food orally. And she basically turned around and said, that's fine, and how you've been finding it, and obviously to supplement with feed as well. And I explained to her that I haven't been supplementing with feed because my tube was blocking a lot, and I wanted to make sure that that was going to start working again, rather than leave me with no choice of eating food on its own anyway. I wanted to just try and clear my tube for the first week, just to introduce my stomach back to eating orally, and to make sure my tube was staying free of blockages, and so that I was still getting hydration as well. So she said, how many flushes am I doing? I explained that I was still doing 8 90ml flushes per day, and that I was basically still getting the 720 mils of fluid through that. And I also explained to her that I didn't want to do start an oral diet and then supplement with feed, because I wouldn't know what was helping and what wasn't, and I wanted my stomach to get used to having food back in it. She told me I'd done the right thing by doing what I was doing, and understood that I didn't want to leave myself without any form of feed whatsoever, because my GI doctor had also said to me that if I found that my tube was blocking to the point where it wasn't working anymore, instead of going to the hospital, I could just pull it out. And I didn't want to have to do that to the point where I was left then with nothing. And my dietitian understood this, and she was quite happy for me to do this. However, she did explain to me that by eating oral foods with textures that I'd have to chew, or even with just eating crackers, it's a lot for my stomach to digest. So she wants me on pureed food. So the type of consistency that you would give like a 4-month-old baby who is only just starting to eat food for the first time. So I was like, okay. She said, however, instead of mixing everything together like you would do for a baby, she said, so it's like a grey, gloopy, brown coloured mess. She said, even though it might taste nice, it doesn't look very appetizing. She said, so blend everything separately. And I typically can't spend a lot of time in the kitchen for the simple reason I get too dizzy, I get too hot. It takes a lot of energy out of me. So to try and boil and cook vegetables, potatoes, healthy consistency meals, and then have to stand there and blend them all individually, like that would take a lot of energy from me. And then I'd probably end up too tired and end up in bed most of the week. So, and it's too much for my brother to do because he works during the day as well. And his shift pattern is early, late, and then mixed shifts. So I can't have him do that for me and then also look after the kids and give them a typical normal diet. So instead of stressing about it and worrying about it, I actually went to an online health company that deals with pureed dysphasic meals. And I ordered some meals off them just for this week, just to see whether or not I could tolerate it. Now, ideally, she wanted me to have 3 small meals a day with 3 snacks in between and just have a few mouthfuls of each. And I'm struggling to have just 1 snack and 1 meal a day. So yesterday, I tried to be really optimistic. I decided to have 2 Weetabix of a morning. I took maybe 5 teaspoons worth out of the bowl and then was like, yeah, don't want it. And then I even took like a fruit puree out of the freezer because all the meals are delivered frozen in order to defrost, ready to have later on. And I didn't eat it because I just felt too sick. And then for evening meal, I tried a pureed sweet and sour chicken meal, and I got maybe a quarter to halfway through it, which I thought was really good for me. And I started feeling really sick. The stomach pain was unbelievable. But I thought, you know what? She wants me to eat 6 full meals or 6 meals a day. 3 meals, and 3 snacks. I've basically couldn't even get through my breakfast. And I've had no snacks whatsoever today, and I had no lunch. So I'm going to make sure I eat this meal. Yeah, very bad attitude. I didn't listen to my body. I forced the full meal down my neck, and I felt so ill afterwards. To the point where I couldn't even have my normal cup of tea in the evening. So for 2 days, if probably not 3 actually, 3 days on the bounce, I have not had my typical cup of tea a day. I've basically just been living off 8 90ml flushes a day. Because I just felt so sick. So the pureed fruit that I took out yesterday to try and have yesterday, I've actually had for morning snack this morning, and I ate maybe 5 or 6 half teaspoons. So you're looking at maybe 3 teaspoons of this pureed meal, and it was quite thick when I got it. So I actually added water to it. And now I added a bit of warm water to it, and it's now gone cold. So it's now like really, really thick. It's gone really, really thick again, as you can see. But I basically didn't eat that much of it because I started feeling sick again. So the whole idea of eating 3 meals a day plus 3 snacks, it's not working. I was originally told to try this for the week. If it doesn't help or it's not helping me, to call back my dietitian on Monday next week. But to go back on feed as of Saturday instead. And I was like, that's fine. So I think by Saturday I will be back on feed. I just hope my tube doesn't block. I might end up having to increase the flushes. But yeah, so I'm really, really giving this a go. I was hoping that I was going to get my sodium cromacylagate prescription through the door by today, so that I could give today, tomorrow and Friday a chance of eating the pureed food along with having the anti-inflammatory medication. But unfortunately, I still haven't received that, and my gastric doctor's not in work this week, and his secretary is off on annual leave. But yeah, the first 2 weeks of having the feeding tube was mental torture for me. Like, I was originally told, like I said, that I could eat what I would typically normally eat and then supplement with feed, pretty much what I've been asked to do now. And I pretty much what I was asked to do before last Thursday. And I was told as soon as I had my tube, like, nothing orally at all, other than a few sips of liquid to take medication. So for the first 2 weeks, especially around my daughter's birthday, we'd planned a barbecue, and obviously I couldn't have any food or anything. And I got more angry at the fact that I was getting upset at the fact that I couldn't eat, despite the fact that I don't eat anyway. So it was kind of a bit bizarre that I was getting upset at the fact that I couldn't eat. But it was totally understandable, because normally I'd have the choice to pick at something. So for example, if I wasn't hungry and I thought, oh, well, I'll probably just have a piece of chicken, I had that choice. But having the tube and being told nil by mouth completely, that choice was taken away from me, and I couldn't even do that. So to not celebrate my daughter's birthday by having a piece of birthday cake or anything like that was very, very mentally challenging. But by the time her actual birthday came about, I felt a little bit better about it. I was like, you know what? Like, I feel a lot better about this now, like, totally feel better. And I was feeling a lot better mentally. I kind of got used to the fact that, it was more about adaptation. So basically adapting to my new environment, adapting to something else that was new. And even though I knew there was a chance at some point I would need a feeding tube, I thought mentally I was prepared for that. But nothing can actually prepare you for something until you're actually going through it. So yes, I was happy with the fact that I had my feeding tube and I was getting the nutrients and everything that I needed. But the fact that food was taken completely off the table for me was really upsetting mentally. And I'd literally just got myself used to the fact that I didn't have to eat food. And then my doctors now told me to start reintroducing food. But then obviously things happen in a personal sense throughout my life as well, which has been even more mentally challenging. And already having a hard time mentally, having a personal issue attack you mentally as well. It's really not been easy. I'm in a better place now, but I've been through so much in my life, and over the last 3 years in particular, if you'd have told me 3 years ago that I would have a feeding tube 3 years later, I probably wouldn't have believed you. So coming to terms with this whole new has just been so heartbreakingly challenging. But I'm still trying to overcome the whole health anxiety aspect as well, and try and get out into the world, especially by myself. And it's hard to have put that in practice, given the fact that I've been shielding for over a year because of the COVID situation, and the year before that I had agoraphobia due to the fact that I had serious health anxiety. So now to have new health issues and to go out and to feel like, the masks are great, because obviously when you're wearing a mask, no one can see your feeding tube. But when I've been outside and I've took my mask off to head to the car or whatever, I've been to the supermarket or to a doctor's appointment, and you can see kids just like looking at you, they'll say, what's that on your face? You do notice it, but at the same time, it doesn't bother me. I thought it would, but it actually doesn't. Because at the end of the day, I know that this tube at the moment is giving me my hydration. But once I start back on my feed, probably by the weekend, because I know that the pureed thing is not really helping. Which I had a feeling it wouldn't, because I can't really tolerate liquids anyway. I basically manage 1 cup of tea a day, if that, and that bloats and causes me pain. So to have pureed food, which is a lot more heavy on consistency, to try and eat 6 of them a day, I knew that that was going to be challenging. Even just a few mouthfuls of that, which would equate to maybe 1 full meal, that's been extremely difficult, and my body's now retaining everything because I'm not getting enough. But I'm not your typical gastroparesis patient. Most gastroparesis patients are low in weight. They are usually underweight, but because I had a uterine ablation done in 2012 due to hemorrhaging from having my son in 2010, I think my hormonal levels are all off balance, and that's fine. Like, especially estrogen levels, I think that's kind of put me into a very early onset menopause, and kind of massively contributing to the fact that I can't lose weight as quickly as a typical person of my age, given the fact of that, and the fact that I can't exercise as much as I would like to, other than do my physio. It's not something that is easy for me to lose weight. So to lose weight because I can't eat, I'm not losing weight dramatically, and my weight does fluctuate quite a lot. So I originally started off at borderline 14 stone, probably about 1.5 years ago, and over 1.5 years ago I've gone from 14 stone down to 11.5, and then kind of crept back up to just over 12, and being on feed has kept me just over 12, and I'm supposed to be roughly around 9 stone, so I'm about 3 stone overweight. But even if I could eat, I think that my weight would just escalate instead of actually losing. And even if I was to just eat salad every single day of the week, even though I can't eat that much, if I was normal and I didn't have gastroparesis, I think that my weight would still go up, because I've been on crash diets throughout my life, especially since 2012, and every single diet will have me lose a little bit of weight, and then it'll just pile it back on again as soon as you go back onto normal food. And my diet isn't particularly overly that bad. I don't eat ice creams, I don't eat takeaways that often. I have maybe 1 takeaway every 2 or 3 months. I eat vegetables and things like that, so I don't understand why my diet is putting weight on me when it shouldn't. And despite the fact that I'm eating very small portions, like this tub it looks big on the page, but it's not. It's actually really, really small. It's probably like the width of my phone. Not even the width of my phone. It's actually smaller than my phone. If I turn it that way, it'd be the width of my phone. So even just this tub, like, I can't even eat this. So, and it's only half full. Like, see, it's only half full. So it came like that, and I've had very little of that before feeling sick. So not even being able to eat that, and my weight will still increase despite the fact I'm not eating much, just because it will hold on to any liquid that I put into it, especially on hot days like today. My weight will just go up because it's holding on to fluid, and obviously having fluid retention as well, especially urinary retention. My bladder doesn't empty as well as it should do either. So I get a lot of swollen ankles, swollen wrists to the point where this is actually quite loose today, but it's been that tight. I don't know if you can see, it's actually caused, you can't really see, but it's actually caused like a really bad rash across my wrist here. I don't know if you can see, there you go, you can see a bit better now. But it's actually caused a really serious rash against here, to the point where it's actually made my skin really, really thin, to the point where it's ripping my skin. And anybody else just wake up with random bruises, like, for no reason? Like, I've got totally random bruises. But anyway, completely off subject. But yeah, so this is my update. I'm sorry I've just waffled on for like the past 10 minutes. But yeah, this was my update. Like I said, a lot has happened in the last few weeks. I've had my tube now for up to 6 weeks this Thursday, and for the last week and a half, or coming up to this Thursday, I would have been trying to eat oral foods, mainly pureed food. As I said, I'm hoping to get the chromocalagate through at some point before I finish eating the pureed stuff to see if that helps. And if it doesn't, then I'm back on feed at the weekend, and my dietitian will be getting called on Monday to see where we go from here. So I'll keep you guys posted. Like I said, I can't have the tube changed and put on my left side because of the fact that my left side of my nose is very narrow. And the tape here, if I was to remove this tape, you would see how red this is, and not just because of the colouring on this tape. I've actually put this on because it's Pride Month. So if you're watching and you are part of Pride, happy Pride Month. So yeah, this was my update, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. I'm sorry it's been so long since I've actually posted. I'm going to try and post at least once every couple of weeks now, if not once every week, even if it's just random stuff to see how I'm doing. But yeah, if there's anything you want to know, please message below, or as always, you can always DM me on my Instagram account, which I will also link below. And take care, enjoy the sunshine, stay safe, and if you haven't already, go and get your COVID immunisations. Take care. Bye.